helped me make Soft Times. So that was an adventure. um, and then I was more proud of that work. I was like, oh, I can actually do this. And that's when I started sending it out to film festivals, and it got into a good number of film festivals. But again, not knowing how to distribute it, not knowing how to take advantage of film festivals at the time, but they did get into some festivals. I went to a couple of them for Soft Times, and I met a lot of people off of that. But it was a great experience, again, just using my resources, my apartment. I mean, I think we had like 6 scenes in the apartment. And so the fact that it was my apartment, I can shoot all night, right? We even had an overnight shoot to do the lighting. So it wasn't a problem because it's my place, right? And I just told my neighbors, and they liked it because they were like, "Oh, you're making a movie?" So they were super excited. So it was a win-win for everybody.
You know, earlier you said that you were inspired by Spike Lee's films, and
Yes.
hearing about Soft Times reminded me of I guess his first film. But is that part of what you're inspired by his work to this just very contemporary relationship kind of issues?
Right. At the time, that was my filmmaker's practice has changed, but that was my whole thing, right? Like making really personal films. And he was my first inspiration just because he was everywhere, right? Like you really couldn't look anywhere and not see Spike Lee. And so I had no idea about women filmmakers, Black women filmmakers, women of color filmmakers. So he was my lens because he was the one that everybody was putting in on front of the screen.
Yeah.
So after I went to LACC and started thinking to myself, I know there are more different people making films besides Spike, right? And so I started digging around and just paying attention to people when they speak. I was like, I know somebody's making a movie like me. And then I found Julie Dash. Changed
Oh,
my whole life.
oh my gosh,
My
yes.
whole life changed. And I think I was weeping because I was like, how has she been hidden from me for so long?
Uh-huh.
Um, where has she been my entire life, right? That's how I
Are you
felt about
talking about
Julie Dash.
Daughters of the Dust? Did you
Sorry?
when you saw Daughters of the Dust?
Yes. Changed my life.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then I saw some of her short films. I was like,
Oh, I
who
have.
is this person? Yeah, I see. I was so determined though, because I went to this is when we could move to college, move around and go to colleges. I I made a reservation at UCLA to watch all of her films. That's
Mm,
how desperate I was to watch a filmmaker, a Black woman make films. Oh God, Illusions and Diary of an African Nun. I
uh-huh.
mean, it was life changing. I had no idea that I could make a film that looks like that, right? So it changed my whole practice. I saw a recent interview that she did, and she speaks exactly how I speak about filmmaking.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
so just super inspirational
Yes. You
to be
know,
able to find her.
we I used to run a cinema and we showed Daughters of the Dust when it came out. So first run, I think it's now 30-year anniversary of
Yes.
that. And we had a cinema on Miami Beach, and we had a very, very diverse crowd that would come. But for that
Mhm.
film, we also worked with, oddly enough, Philip Michael Thomas had a cinema in North Miami in a much more African American neighborhood. And so we showed it there as well. And we got very mixed and diverse audiences there as well.
Mhm.
But that film was just, yeah, it was just like, oh my God, there's a whole different way of seeing the world.
Yeah.
Uh, and it wasn't the way that I had been trained to see. It was like something
Mhm.
that it was like seeing in a different way. So
Absolutely.
yeah, if anybody has the chance, and I do believe it's something like the 30th anniversary or something of Daughters of the Dust.
Yes, it should be on Criterion Channel. It was on Netflix for a little while.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, absolutely inspired me to shift the way I do filmmaking.
And
Um,
And at that time, also, I was doing some research, and it turned out that there were 6, I can't remember exactly the date, but it was in those years, 1990 to 2000. There were 6 Black women filmmakers who had made a second feature.
hmm,
6. And that to me just said everything. that I needed.
Absolutely.
Just said everything that I needed to know. One of them was Cheryl Dunier. One was Cassie Lemons, who made Eve's Bayou.
Right.
And I remember seeing Eve's Bayou again and just being like, oh, wow.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I think, just sort of having the opportunity to see Black women's stories on screen was just such an amazing eye-opener.
Yeah.
So we're all inspired now.
Yeah, she's amazing. I will shout her from the rooftop because she absolutely helps me keep going to make my films the way I want to make them. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself an experimental filmmaker?
Yes, now I do. Again, yeah. Before with Soft Times in 12 Weeks, I was doing super conventional, right? Super conventional stories. The rom-com type of era, right? Because I'm funny, right? I can tell jokes in writing, and it came easy to me. People are like, comedy's hard, but for me, it came much easier to write comedy than do anything else. So I told myself, I was like, you can do something else. Let's see how you can expand your filmmaking practice. And that's when I started thinking about to myself that you can make something that's experimental, or you can make something that people are not going to expect you to make just because you've made rom-coms, right? And so that's what I did with my latest film. And then what I'm doing now is trying to think about how I'm going to work through the pandemic to make experimental work. Yeah.
So, is the latest film the one that I have the trailer
for? Yes, MINO.
Shall I show the trailer? Do you want to tell us anything first, or
I think you should just watch the trailer, and then there's some questions, right? It's called MINO, a Diasporic Myth, and I'll just say that, and then show the trailer, and then I can take questions, or if you had questions for me about what it's about and how I came to make it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. MINO is the film. We always have to apologize for Zoom.
She's having a vision. Breathe through it and tell me what's coming to you. Get rid of the thoughts about me. I miss their presence.
You will be banished, Osa. You have a daughter of childbearing age. Have her carry the bloodline instead of in the womb of your lover.
Okay. Wow, thank you for that. MINO, a Diasporic
Myth. Yes.
Okay, so 2079.
Yes.
I was thinking we were going to go backwards. We went
forward. Yeah.
Forwards. Yeah. So tell us about this film.
So this film, is about a coven of Black women who can self-conceive their own children. And they self-conceive girl children. They decided that they only want children who identify as girls. And then there's this one new woman, new to the coven, who decides that she wants to bring men back into the presence, right? She's weary of a world where men no longer exist. And then there's a conflict because there are elders who are saying, this is our world, we're not compromising. And then you have this new person saying, there's a way to compromise to make sure we have this balance. And then there's the conflict there and how they're going to decide if she should stay in the world or she should go. Is the child going to be born? Is it not? Because they can self-conceive the children just from spiritual and mental powers. And so that's what the film is about.
Nice. And I saw the flavor of Julie Dash. I saw a dash of Julie Dash.
Yes. super inspired by her.
Yes. So now in today, as a filmmaker, um, what is it that is important to you to communicate in your films?
Essentially not erasing myself and my experiences as a Black woman, no matter how the experiences look. And when I say look, they don't have to be pretty experiences. And not erasing myself. And making sure my experiences or experiences of women that I know are on the screen, in whatever way that they come out and come to me. So that's been my, my mantra to myself, is to make the films without erasure. Because you can look at films on Netflix and not see not one Black woman character. I mean, not one. I mean, you'll always have the Black man character, right? They'll put somebody in there, like a horror film. They'll have all the, some people of color, maybe one, and then maybe one Black guy, but then you won't see any Black women. And so I feel like my job as a filmmaker is to consistently remind people that we are here, and we're always going to be here. And my films are going to encapsulate those experiences.
And it's so the opposite of what you were talking about at the very beginning of your filmmaking, about this sort of idea of keeping the secret,
Right.
Because the way that the erasing ourselves obviously is what we've been trained to do.
Absolutely.
In our society. And so it's up to us to learn how to not engage in that self-censorship and that self-erasure. And it's a practice, right? It has to be a practice. And I love that, Zora Neale Hurston is looking over your shoulder.
Yes.
Because she was such a pioneer for us in the bringing the storytelling forward.
Absolutely.
So these days, when it comes to making your films, how do you balance work? You were talking before about how your sister taught you whatever the job,
right?
What's the balance that you have to make it all work?
Oh my goodness. How do I even do it? It's a very distinct determination in my heart, in my soul, in my brain that I'm a filmmaker. So that's first, right? And everything else comes second, no matter how much people try to explain that it doesn't. So that's my mindset. When I took, I thought, okay, I got fired from that job too, the teaching job. So and I know I got fired from that one too. So after I got fired from that one and then got another teaching job, I told myself, you're going in, right? You're gonna teach the students, but you also know in the back of your head that your films matter. And I was so determined to make a film. So it's about a lot of sacrifice. And I know sacrifice, and people say it's like you're giving something up, but I think I'm making something very sacred, right? So to me, instead of giving something up, I'm making my art practice very sacred to me. Yes. So that means on the weekends, if I'm tired, I get some rest, right? But then I wake up at like 12 or so on Saturday and start thinking about my story and how I'm going to make the story happen. Saturday and Sunday, it was very specific. Once I had the story, I can go and make sure the weekends are taken up by the writing. But if I don't have the story, then I have to, get rid of those distractions, things that happen at work that don't matter, meetings that are not important, right? So sometimes I would be in meetings making notes and daydreaming. That I'm just going to be honest. I be in staff meetings daydreaming about how I'm going to write this scene when I get home. And I think it takes a lot of that, like doing your job, right? And making sure you're being there for students. But at the same time, when you're in these spaces that not necessarily need to be happening, you can get your work done. And it's absolutely not easy, right? People are like, you never say anything. And I'm just like, I'm thinking about stuff. I mean, I don't need to say much, right? Or not going out to that happy hour, right? Not going out to an event where, you know, you might meet someone. So sacrificing that, right? Like going to a screening. There were so many screenings I did not go to for like a year. I didn't go anywhere. It was about making my film happen. So I stopped going to a lot of events for a very long time to make sure I can get the film going. So it's just about making what's important to you sacred to you. And a lot of times it's easier said than done, but I want to, again, prove it to myself that you're going to make another film. You are a filmmaker. So that means you make films. However that comes up is how I've been doing it.
Absolutely. I have a client right now, and he's a writer, a very good writer, and he was driving for Uber, and he was miserable driving for Uber, miserable. And then he had an accident in the car.
Oh.
And he said, and I realized I'm not supposed to be driving for Uber. But now he's driving for Uber, and he's happy driving for Uber because he's a writer. And there's just been
Absolutely.
a shift in the perception, and then everything then comes second to being the filmmaker. And it's a shift in consciousness, you know, and not necessarily a change in anything.
Right.
A shift in consciousness that your sister knew and taught you, you know. It's like, oh, it's just a job, you know.
Right.
The last time I got fired from a job, they sat me down, they said, we're firing you and we've written out a letter here telling you what you did wrong. Would you like us to read it to you? I said, absolutely not.
Like, y'all had that much time to do that?
Just like, no, nothing you have that is of any interest for me.
Right.
So was there along the line that you made a feature film? I think?
No, not yet.
No.
I'm actually writing, right now, I'm actually developing my feature. I actually have lots of ideas for features, but I'm focusing on one. So I'm developing one right now because I know one I can make it back at home in Georgia where I'm from. So again, using my resources, like at least 2 features I have in my brain. One script I've already written. It just needs to be shot, right? But again, waiting until all the, you know.
This is over.
Right. So I'm working on another feature script right now, developing that script. Super experimental, again, set in the future. So yeah, that's all I say about it, but that's what I'm working on right now.
So does your practice now include the poetry in the filmmaking? Is that how you put those things together?
Yeah. So after Soft Times, that's one thing I had stopped writing poems. So I thought I was never going to write a poem again because I hadn't written poems since 2012. And by that time it was 2016. I was like super afraid I wasn't going to write poems anymore and couldn't figure out how I can merge the practice. So again, I went to school again and took some poetry courses. I was like, oh, I still have it. Of course you do, right? And so I applied to this super competitive poetry fellowship for Black poets. Had no idea I would get in. I was just like, let me just submit. And I got in. And so that helped me reaffirm my poetry. And then when I got ready to write this current film, MINO and Diasporic Myth, when I tell people I'm a poet, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because some of the scenes are super poetic. And so I guess I figured out a way to merge, right? To merge the practice with subconsciously not even aware. So it's merged now. So this film feature that I'm working on is gonna have super poetic elements to it.
When you think about your career moving forward, where do you most want your work to be seen?
Everywhere. Anybody. Let's come all watch the films. However that gets done, I have no idea how it's going to happen, but I want people all over the world to watch my films. And MINO has gotten in a lot of places that I didn't expect. I'm so proud of it. Amsterdam, Berlin. I never thought that my film would be there. So the fact that the short is in places, I know the feature is going to get seen by so many people. Yeah.
The reason I was asking the question in that way was I wonder if you, because when I ask if you think of yourself as an experimental filmmaker, and then the poetry is very blended with the filmmaking. If you see your work in art galleries and museums rather than in the regular exhibition space.
I think, well, I'm super untraditional. I don't know how it would go into the exhibition space, right? With the fact that we have different types of formats now for films, you can get them anywhere. And there are so many places where people are accepting those types of films and having them out in the world. And so there's an audience for it. It's just a matter of finding the audience and matching the audience with the films that they want to watch. Don't know how that's going to happen, right? But there's a way for it to get done.
Yeah. I have a very dear friend in Miami who is like this clear, I'm in the experimental lane. And all the people that he sees ahead of him are people whose work is shown in museums. I mean, that's the world, like that art world scene. And it's a very different path, but he's very clear that that's his path, the museum world, the art world. But I also, and I was saying this before we started, that I'm seeing some very interesting places that short films are getting seen in more places in the world than maybe in the past. I think we just lost Ashunda. I think it was the Wi-Fi thing. I saw she was frozen for a while. She'll probably come back. So good. Well, this gives us a chance to come up with some questions for Ashunda when she comes back. I suspect her Wi-Fi threw her out. Good to see you all. Dr. Alberta, all the way from Trinidad. Peter, hi Peter. You getting some rest after
nice to be here.
I hope. Hi, Dr. Alberta. Hi, Diane. Hi, Anne-Marie. Marlena, as I said, we're going to set up another time to speak. We're just waiting for Ashunda to come back. Unless her Wi-Fi has completely let her down. And I'm so sad, I realized that I only hit the recording halfway through, so I've lost a lot of the thing. My intern is not here today, and she usually records it on YouTube, so we have a double cover, even if I forget to record it on Zoom. But today, so I only have half the recording. We'll see if she makes it back. What's everybody working on this week? Dr. Alberta, I haven't seen you for ages. How's your film coming along?
And so I will be doing interview next week.
With who?
Oh, that's with one of the pigeon pea lovers who is over 80 years old.
Oh.
So
Nice.
we were working through with the whole COVID, and so now we were able to repin down a time. So we're going for next week.
Right. Okay. Okay. Diane, what have you been working on?
Well, so as you know, I've just finished up the crowdfunding campaign, and I'm literally just moving into thank you, successfully raised 40% more than our original goal with everything all told, which was, yeah. So thank you. And so right now I'm looking at potentially, as you know, I'm going to be starting to talk to the cinematographer that I'm working with. And I'm at a point, and you and I've talked about bringing a line producer on. And that actually was going to be what I was going to ask her about, because wanting to, like, knowing that I have to reach out in a very specific way so that someone that is going to be working with me, that's supporting my vision and understanding, you know, what it is that we're wanting to do with this. So I'm just at that point where I'm actually starting to set up. We'll be shooting in April. So really getting started on setting up all that. So yeah, so it's really exciting.
Sorry, I muted myself. I'm just trying to see if I can find Ashunda, but let's see. Who knows? She may be having technical difficulties that she can't get back. So I was going to say, a line producer is usually somebody who's going to help you figure out a budget for your film. But in your case, it's I would say it's not something you particularly need. You have now raised a certain amount of money, and you are going to try to use that money to get to the next stage, you know, production, maybe get all the way to be ready for post.
Right.
Because you've got all your interviews lined up and all of that. So really, rather than you looking for an outside person to do your budget, what you need to do is look at your money and say, where am I putting this money to get to where I need to get to?
Okay, because I already do have a fairly detailed budget.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't think that there's really a need for an outside person. Bye, Marlena. We'll talk soon. That you're going to need to bring in to do that. You know what you have, and then you're going to use the kind of strategy that we use to land your DP. You know.
Okay. So like, this is what I've got.
Yeah, this is what I've got. And you know, another thing to think about is the concept called pay yourself first.
No.
Pay yourself first, because you just raised this money. It's not a massive amount in terms of making a feature film, but it's an amount of money that you can use to pay yourself. And you know, and you already have your whole team, so you know, I'm not sure. I suspect that we have lost Ashunda, and she is not going to make it back because she hasn't made it back. So who else have I not seen for a while? Edward, what are you working on? He's out there in Miami. Justin Miller, I don't think we've met before. Or have we? Did we meet on Clubhouse the other day, Justin?
We have not met.
Oh, okay.
My dad actually gave me your name and your info, and I shoot small micro adaptations of poetry. So shot one the other day, and this is perfect timing for this. But it's been nice to meet everyone.
Yes, lovely to meet you. Where are you, Justin?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh my gosh. So Ashunda is from Georgia, and this
that was another connection. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first time that I've lost my guest halfway through.
I bring good luck, apparently.
Well, apparently we had to have at least one Georgian on.
Yes.
Edward, what are you working on?
Well, I'm still developing some projects, working on some animations and the marketing material for them.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Are these shorts, or because you were?
No, they are feature films.
You're making an animated feature?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I'm just developing, relax. I'm not drawing everything right now. I mean, if we don't finish with the if the COVID does not come to an end, I might have enough time to make the whole feature, it seems.
I got my second vaccination today, so I can act in anybody's film that you.
I'm sure I can have your voice in that.
Yes. So I think that I'm gonna give up for the day and just assume that Ashunda is not going to be able to get back to us. But it was fun meeting her and speaking to her, and also remembering Julie Dash. If you get a chance to see Daughters of the Dust, it's just an extraordinary, epic film. As I said, that it has such a unique voice that there's just nothing like it. Nothing like it. Has anyone seen it? Has anyone seen Daughters of the Dust? Diane? Yes. Justin, you know, for seeing poetry on screen, that's your movie.
Copy
So,
that. I just wrote that down.
yeah, definitely. And it's not set in Georgia. But it is. It's set in the Georgia Sea Islands.
Cool.
Set in the Georgia Sea Islands, and they speak English and what's the language? Anyway, the language that they use in the Georgia Sea Islands, which is very, very interesting. But thank you all so much for coming this morning. Oh, Dr. Alberta, you have a question?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the interesting things with doing a documentary is how things change as you go along.
Yes.
So I find, well, I started back fundraising. I will eventually start pitching to some of the more bigger organizations. Right. So it was like how to keep the frame, because I want to keep the frame of the farmer, but it's how to keep that frame of the farmer and still bring in the pigeon peas and still bring in the science.
Can you tell everybody the log line so they know what the film is that you're talking about?
Okay. Pigeon peas is the most enjoyable peas in Trinidad and Tobago, but it's not available right through the air. Therefore, scientists are working to improve the crop and encounter interesting challenges along the way.
So your film is very much a science film, a natural science film, and the changes, I guess, must be massive given COVID. The changes in your story.
That's a good question. The story itself hasn't changed, right, but the production itself, yes, is where the challenge comes in.
Yes. And you know, I know that Trinidad still has not started the vaccination process. I got my second vaccine today, but so it'll get, you know, you'll get there. But you know, one of the things, for example, that Diane is doing is setting up interviews where with like a very, 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 very small crew, so that there can be social distancing and everybody can be wearing masks and keep very safe. And then I guess the interviewer will just take their mask off just while they're actually speaking, but everybody else is masked. So I have other clients who are actually making their films and just staying safe, you know, in COVID. So, but I think as you're going out and pitching to the larger corporate sponsors, the agricultural companies and so on that you're going to go to, really, I don't think anything has changed about your story or about your log line. Maybe some of the logistics have changed in terms of, I'll have it finished by, you know, we've had to extend that timeline, but nobody's going to find that strange because everybody's in the same boat. Everybody in the entire world is in the same boat around those kinds of things. Anne-Marie, do you want to ask your question now? Do you mind it being a public question?
Sure, I can ask it right now. So I'm working on the script and I've done a lot of rewriting, and I don't have him sign, I haven't had him sign a contract yet to give me the right to produce it. So should I send that to him before I send him back the script that I've revised?
That would be a really good idea.
I'm just going with my gut here, but yeah, it kind of tells me I should do that because I've done like 50% revision on this script.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, no, so
definitely send him that contract.
Okay.
I should have made it back. Okay. Definitely send him that contract and it'll be kind of a carrot and stick kind of thing. You send him the contract and you can let him know you're done and you're ready to go into production. He'll be super excited. Ashunda, where are you? Where are you? Oh my gosh, we lost you. I didn't think you were going to make it back. You're muted. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, my internet, something is just went out. Just
No, that's, we only just came out of Mercury in retrograde, so
so weird things are happening. I was like, it's just like you froze, and I was like, wait, what's happening?
I know. So does anybody have? I know that you have a hard stop in 5 minutes. Does anybody have a question for Ashunda? Maybe Justin from Georgia has a question. Or anybody who, did I just see a hand?
Just on your microphone is up.
There we go. I was just gonna ask, how do you go about moving from poetry to screen? What do you take from poetry and put into screen?
It's very subconscious. I don't think I'm taking like aspects of my poems per se into the screen, but I do think I'm taking the elements of like poetry, the how the language flows, how it moves, into the film, especially my last film. It's more of subconsciously. I've tried to do something consciously to like do, this is a poetic experimental, and it just didn't work the same way. So more so of just exercising the muscle when I'm writing poems, and then exercising the muscle when I'm writing scripts, and then it kind of merges together when it comes on the screen.
Okay.
That's so interesting. So I think what you're saying is that there's a subconscious creative process,
right?
Both in the poetry and in the filmmaking.
Yeah, for me, because I was trying to do it consciously. I would say, again, I got really sad about not writing poems in 2013. I was like, how am I going to do both? And then they just start merging together. But I will say there are two separate practices, right? Like there are times when I'm writing poems and I'm scribbling down and I know it's going to be a poem. And then there are some times I'm scribbling down and I know it's going to be a scene. And then somehow it's just like a organic process that it comes out and the scenes are written. Sometimes people give me notes and say, oh, this is super poetic. And it wasn't even intentional when I write some of the scenes in my scripts. Even with my nonfiction essay writing, the same thing. People are like, oh, there's such a poetic sensibility. So it's just something that's already in the way I create. It's not really something I consciously try to do, because when I try to do it consciously, it didn't really work. So I let it be organic to itself. And then just a life of me, like loving language and the way language can like communicate visually is just how it comes out.
That's right. Poetry is often so cinematic.
Yeah, really and truly.
Yeah, while you were gone, Justin had shared with us that he's a poet in Georgia.
Oh, nice.
I don't write poetry, but I consider my short films poetry.
Oh, that's nice. So you're probably a poet. So
at some level, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably are. Does anybody have a last question for Ashunda? I thought for sure Diane would have a question. Diane has a question. Oh, thank goodness, Diane.
Yeah, I just maybe just really quickly. I'm thinking of and thank you, Ashunda. Just so incredibly inspiring.
You're welcome.
Takes me back to like the first time I read Margaret Atwood and Lady Oracle, and just just the world that you're creating. So kudos, just really exciting. One of the things that when you were just talking about your process that I thought of was Guillermo del Toro, who did like Shape of Water and work that he does. And he generally brings on another writer that he works with. Do you ever work with someone like that and partner? Do you know where they're bringing potentially different elements into the story?
I haven't worked with another writer yet, and not in that sense. I mean, writing groups and things like that, but like a writing partner, I haven't tried that because I love his work. I love how he brings in the indigenous culture of his people and how it merges. I'm absolutely trying to do the same kind of things. So I do use people and they don't know, like my sister, like she doesn't know she's a writing partner. Or my mom, when she says certain things, they don't know they're writing partners. So yeah, taking things from my people, but I haven't done it in a conscious way at all. Like to say, hey, you're my writing partner, can we create together? But something to be open about for sure.
Is that your mother behind you?
No, that's Zorna Hurston.
Oh, sorry. I love the painting. So, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
Zorna Hurston, one of my favorite writers. So I try to keep, she's one of my friends painted it for me. So yeah.
Understandable. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Diane. You just reminded me of Peter Bratt, who's a Bay Area filmmaker. And the first film he made was called Follow Me Home, and another film that you can't see anywhere. And it tells the story of 4 artists from LA who decide, they're all artists of color, and they decide that they're going to travel to DC to put some color on the White House. And on the way, they meet this mysterious woman carrying a box. And anyway, it's an amazing film. And
yeah,
it's the first film that I saw that I felt made a serious attempt at looking at kind of the ghosts of our American history coming, because they're still alive, and that I've seen a few people try to do that, and I see that in your work as well, because there's these ghosts that are supposedly dead, but they're still here with us.
yes,
the ones that haven't been addressed and that haven't been recognized yet.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being
You're
on
welcome.
today. I'm sorry we had technical issues, but
I know this whole thing about being online, the internet can just do whatever it wants to.
its own thing. Thank you so much. And
you're very welcome. It was really great to be here.
And great to meet you and learn more about you. And I look forward to seeing more of your films.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.